All right, so today we are diving into a world of suspense and dark secrets in Freida McFadden's The Housemaid.
Yeah, a real page-turner, this one.
You're telling me,
Yeah.
right from the first chapter, we're thrown into Millie's world, a young woman trying to start over.
And not an easy start either. She's fresh out of prison and trying to find her footing.
Exactly. So when she lands a job as a live-in housemaid for the wealthy Winchester family, it seems like a dream come true, right?
Well, on the surface, sure.
But that's the thing about McFadden's books. Nothing is as it seems.
Oh, absolutely not. She's a master at that.
Right. Like take the interview with Nina Winchester. She's elegant, intimidating even, sipping tea in her luxurious home.
Total lady of the manor vibes.
Totally. But Millie's so desperate for a fresh start that she overlooks some glaring red flags. I mean, would you be okay with a locked attic room?
Probably not. I'd be a little curious, though.
Oh, for sure. Curious, but maybe a little creeped out too, right?
Definitely. And it's interesting what you said about Millie being desperate. McFadden uses that desperation to highlight a really important theme: vulnerability.
Oh, I see that. Because Millie is so vulnerable, she's willing to ignore those gut feelings.
Exactly. She needs this job, needs this fresh start, so she pushes aside those warning bells.
And those warning bells get louder when Millie actually sees the attic room. McFadden doesn't hold back on the descriptions. It's cramped, dimly lit, almost like a prison cell itself.
It's almost as if the house is a character itself, you know? Whispering secrets, holding on to darkness.
Totally. Remember that line? She could scream and yell all she wanted and nobody would hear. Chilling.
So effective. McFadden uses those sensory details to build this atmosphere of unease, of isolation.
And then there's Cecilia, Nina's daughter. At first glance, she's just a quiet child, almost blending into the background.
But there's something a little off.
Right. Millie even jokes about the possibility of Cecilia murdering her in her sleep.
Dark humor, but it speaks volumes about the overall atmosphere of that house, doesn't it?
Definitely. It's unsettling, to say the least.
And that's where McFadden excels, creating this sense of dread that seeps into every interaction.
And speaking of unsettling interactions, what about Enzo, the landscaper?
Oh, he's a whole other layer to this onion.
Right. He seems to know a lot more than he lets on.
He's definitely holding back, like he's seen or heard something he shouldn't have.
That scene where he warns Millie about the house, just uttering one word, pericolo, which means danger. I got chills.
Oh, so creepy. McFadden uses Enzo to add another layer of suspicion, and she doesn't even need to explain much.
Exactly. Just one word, and we know something's not right. And it makes you wonder, what has he witnessed in that house?
Right. What secrets has he stumbled upon?
And just when you think things can't get any weirder, we meet Andrew, Nina's husband. He's charming, attentive, the complete opposite of his uptight wife.
Of course, this being a thriller, you immediately suspect he's too good to be true.
You know it. But Millie is drawn to him, which makes sense. She's young, she's looking for connection. But knowing McFadden, I was already thinking, uh-oh, what's the catch?
Right, there's always a catch. And it's interesting, this dynamic between Andrew and Millie, it further complicates the power dynamics at play.
Totally. And as if things weren't complicated enough already with just those characters in that house.
You just know McFadden has more surprises in store because things really start to unravel as Millie settles into her new life at the house.
Right. The more time she spends with the Winchesters, the more you realize just how messed up they are. Even seemingly normal, everyday things take on this creepy vibe.
It's true. Like, remember when Millie finds the house completely trashed after Nina's been home alone all day?
Oh, yeah. It was way more than just your typical mess.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what does Nina do during those days alone?
Right. It's like this glimpse into her inner turmoil that's just simmering beneath the surface.
And then there's that whole thing with the PTA notes. Did you think Millie actually threw them away?
I don't know. That's the thing. McFadden makes you doubt everything.
Totally. Is Nina losing it, or is she purposely trying to gaslight Millie?
It's so unsettling. And it reminded me of the peanut butter incident.
Oh, yeah. That was strange. Millie's reaction seemed so extreme for just peanut butter.
Right. It felt really out of place until we learned about her past trauma.
And that's classic McFadden, right? She plants these little seeds, these seemingly insignificant details that come back to pack a punch later.
Totally.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that seem insignificant at first, did you catch all the ways Nina tried to control Millie?
Yeah, she was subtle about it at first, but then it got really intense.
Like forbidding Millie from having visitors, especially men.
So controlling. It just screamed insecurity, you know.
Absolutely. Like, who cares if Millie talks to Enzo?
Right. And Enzo clearly wasn't even interested. It all pointed back to Nina's own issues.
And speaking of getting a clearer picture of Nina, Those conversations with the PTA moms were pretty revealing, don't you think?
Oh, totally. Juicy gossip, but also kind of sad.
Yeah, for sure. Hearing about Nina's mental health struggles, her controlling behavior, even that airtight prenup.
You really start to see a different side to her.
It's like suddenly she's not the villain anymore.
Yeah, more like someone who's been deeply hurt.
And then, to top it all off,
Yeah.
we learned about Nina's past. Her breakdown, the institution.
Talk about a bombshell.
It really makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about her, right?
Totally. It made me wonder, is she capable of hurting Millie even after all she's been through?
And just when you think you're starting to understand Nina, she disappears.
Vanishes into thin air.
I know. Talk about a twist. One minute she's this controlling presence, and the next, she's gone.
And the house takes on this whole new feeling, right?
Totally. It's like with Nina gone, all her secrets are just kind of hanging in the air.
And now Millie's alone with Andrew and Cecilia. Talk about a recipe for disaster.
Right. You can just feel Millie's anxiety going through the roof. She doesn't know who to trust or what to believe anymore.
And just when you think things can't get any more intense, McFadden throws us another curveball Millie's past.
Oh man, that was a game changer. Suddenly we're seeing Millie in a whole new light.
The quiet, vulnerable housemaid. Yeah, not so much.
Right. Learning about her violent outbursts, her time in prison, it makes you re-examine every interaction she's had.
Totally. It makes you wonder, is Millie a victim or is she capable of the same kind of darkness as Nina?
It's like, who are the real victims and who are the manipulators? McFadden just flips the script on us.
And does it brilliantly. She makes you question your own judgments, your own perceptions of good and bad.
And speaking of manipulation, how about that ending? Turns out, Nina planned the whole thing.
Oh, I know. She was pulling the strings all along, faking her breakdown, disappearing, all part of this elaborate plan to escape her marriage.
Crazy, right? But you also have to admire her ingenuity.
It's true. She used everyone's perceptions of her against them. She played the victim to gain sympathy and then used that sympathy as a weapon to get what she wanted.
It's like she finally snapped after years of living under Andrew's thumb, under the weight of everyone's expectations.
Exactly. And that final confrontation between her and Millie. So intense.
So good. You could just feel the desperation, the struggle for control.
And in the end, Nina gets away with it. But at what cost, right?
That's the thing about The Housemaid. It leaves you with so many questions, so many what-ifs.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish the last page. Makes you wonder what secrets people are hiding.
Oh, for sure. And that's what makes it such a great thriller, right?
Yeah.
It keeps you guessing until the very end, and even then, you're left with this lingering sense of unease. The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, definitely worth a read. And that's a wrap on another deep dive. See you next time, folks.